Hello, my name is Tripp Jeffers. I'm your senior NEA director and a high school history and philosophy teacher in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And I happen to be running for vice president of the North Carolina Association of Educators. I wanted to take an opportunity to talk to you about my background and why I've chosen to run for this position for NCAE. I grew up in a rather poor cotton mill town in South Carolina. My father is a welder. My mother worked as a secretary in the cotton mill. My grandparents were sharecroppers and also worked in the textile mills themselves. And so I understand some of the hardships that even many of our members are experiencing in these economic times. But growing up in that community shaped me, and I think, as I have pondered over the last few years, explain why I ended up in this profession, ended up teaching young children, teaching, molding young minds, as so many of you do as well. And I've recalled back to when I was in the sixth grade when my grandfather passed away. Passed away from lung cancer, and as I said, had been a sharecropper and cotton mill worker all of his life. And when he passed away, I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, helping her through the mourning process, remembering my grandfather, helping her organize his affairs, and going through many of his belongings just to decide what needed to be discarded and what needed to be salvaged. And I remember very, very clearly one evening when we went through a small shoebox underneath his bed. And inside that shoebox were little McGuffey readers and Dick and Jane books, primers. I'm sure none of you are old enough to remember using those, but it struck me at the time because it wasn't until that moment that I realized that my grandfather, who I adored and from whom I learned many lessons, nevertheless was illiterate. He didn't know how to read. And at the end of his life, stricken with cancer, knowing that he was coming to the end of his life, he had asked his Sunday school teacher to teach him how to read. It taught me a lesson very early on that education, this thing that you and I have dedicated our lives to, that education, without which no other profession is even possible, is the great equalizer. It lifts all boats. It elevates, or has the potential to elevate everyone. It has the potential to erase inequalities of race, of zip code, of gender, and of so many others. It is, I believe, the cornerstone of this American democracy. And yet, it is under attack and has been under attack here in North Carolina and in so many other states for many years, at least the last 5. And for that reason, it has seemed rather dark. It has seemed rather bleak. And it's hard to be optimistic. I'm running for vice president of NCAE because I am optimistic. I refuse to give in to the darkness. I believe that weeping only endures for a night, that joy comes in the morning. I believe in my favorite scripture, chapter 1, verse 5 of John. There's an image in there that just means a lot to me. It says, there was a light in the darkness, and the darkness could not overcome it. And the darkness could not overcome it. Think about that for just a moment. Take the theology out of it if you like. If the room that you're in were completely dark, so blackened that you could not see the hand in front of your face, but you lit one candle, just one, you'd be able to see. Maybe not well, but it would light up the room. And if you pass that candle to another, and to another, and to another, then you've conquered the darkness. And no matter what that darkness tries to do, there's nothing it can do to extinguish that candle, to snuff it out. Nothing. And so I ask you to do not despair. Be optimistic. Be that light for our students and their parents and our communities and this institution called public education that we love. And we will win this fight. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but it will be soon because we are together. Which brings me to another very important lesson that I learned early when I decided to become a teacher. The moment I walked into a school building and had a job, I was surrounded by members of NEA telling me, you need to do this. And I complied because I understood clearly that I needed to be a member. Not because I was scared I was going to get in trouble. Not because I wanted to get discounts of some kind. I understood it because, as I have said over and over as I travel across this state and this country, I understand that our job is governed by giants. And those giants do not feel a single ant crawling up their leg. And that's what we are. We're single ants to them. But a giant, whether it's a school board member or a superintendent or a county commissioner or a congressman or a senator or a governor or all the way up to the president of the United States or the Supreme Court, they will feel dozens in this room, hundreds across your county, thousands across the state of North Carolina, and 3 million ants of the NEA across this great nation crawling up their leg. That, my friends, is the power of collectivity. That is the power of solidarity. That's the power of not being one, of being many. And that's what we have to refocus on. We have to rebuild our membership. We have to rebuild our focus. We have to rebuild our message. We have to rethink the way we do things. And so I'm running for vice president because I think we need to rethink that too. We need to rethink what we expect of our vice president. In most of your locals, your vice president is most likely the chair of membership. I believe that the vice president of NCAE should be the lead on membership as well, the chair of membership, if you will, traveling across the state, not in 1-hour junkets to a small local to give a 5-minute inspirational speech. We can do that. My opponent can do that. And then drive back to our homes or drive back to Raleigh. That does no one any good. I believe that the vice president of NCAE should be focused 100% like a laser on rebuilding our membership, on recruiting members, on retaining members to make us strong again so that we will once again gain the power that we need in order to make a difference. I intend, if you elect me as your vice president, to go all over the state, to set down roots for days at a time, not just for 5 minutes, to assist local presidents and ARs in their buildings for several days at a time. I'll be at the Motel 6 and I'll leave the light on for you to provide the resources that you need, to help you plan events, to help you design materials, to talk to you about the best way to communicate with members and not, the best way to approach school boards and not. I did it as president in Forsyth County. We were able to increase membership by 15% under my leadership, and of course with the help of a fantastic executive committee and lots of wonderful reps. But it was during a difficult economic time from 2007 to 2011. But we increased membership, and I intend to do so as your vice president of NCAE. I ask for your support. I ask for your friendship. I ask for your advice. Please contact me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. All of them are Tripp Jeffers, Trippjeffers. You can also find out more information on my website, trippjeffers.com. And of course, my email is trippjeffers@gmail.com. Please share your thoughts with me. Please tell me what your locals and communities and your leaders and your members need, because that's what our vice president needs to be focused on. And I promise you, we will find our way out of this darkness into the light again, and we will be strong again. I thank you so much for spending time with me, listening to me, supporting, and I always value your friendship. Thank you very much.